This is John and Gilly's Rockers Rollin for BBC Radio Oxford, and I'm now talking to Rick Parfitt Jr., who's very kindly agreed to come down to the convention to sing and play with John's band, John Coblen's Quo, as sadly his dad can't be here, but we're so happy to have you here, Rick.
Oh, thank you.
How is it for you being at the convention?
I've never been part of anything like this before, and I'm just hugely flattered that you guys asked me to come down. And when you first got asked, of course, a lot of things kind of go through your head, and you sort of think, is this the right thing for me to be doing? Because, first of all, John and Alan are absolute legends, and there's a reason why everyone's here. But for me, I'm just loosely related, so quite closely related. But nonetheless, I wasn't part of this apart from the offspring and sort of seeing it, and so it was an absolute honour to be asked to do this and to sing along. And very odd, because having learned the songs that we're going to do, it's something I always watched, but I've never actually sort of properly learnt myself. And so actually trying to think how to perform them and stuff like that is quite an intensive sort of a little thing that sort of went on. And so and in a weird way sort of quite cathartic, because you were putting yourself into your father's shoes, and that has been actually, I think, a lot more emotional than I actually thought it would be.
John, how was it for you having Rick playing with you?
When I got the word, when you said, yeah, I'd love to come down, I'll definitely do it, and I think we spoke about the songs, and I thought, this is really a buzz, because, your dad was a great friend as well as a great musician and great songwriter and everything else. But yeah, it was great. We really appreciate it, mate. Thank you.
Oh, don't be silly. However, what was quite fun actually, and I'll say, is that you never really pay much attention to lyrics. It was definitely a different time when those lyrics were written. And bless him, there's no ambiguity in the lyrics. They're pretty much straight down the line. I think in Rain, I think he was obviously fairly bored, and so instead of just writing a second verse, he just flipped the words round in the different way round. So he had the two lines first and the second line second, and that was a second verse. That'll do. And so this is quite a sort of thing. So when I'm learning this, I'm just having a chuckle, going, "Oh, you lazy so and so." But it worked, and that's kind of what it is. And of course it all sort of became what it was, and so it's great. It's going to be fun, isn't it?
When you listen to a lot of the Quo stuff, Richard, what was a song that you loved that your dad wrote and sang? I mean, we've got loads,
Oh, bless you for saying that. Oh dear. Well, it's kind of weird, because I think Quo songs, for me, it's kind of all about the vibe, isn't it? And it's about it's sort of a primal shuffle that just gets everyone moving. And so they're never the sort of songs that were deeply analysed for their social impact or anything like that. And I'm not taking anything away by saying that. What they would do was were sort of constructed to get people moving, to have a really good time and kick ass.
Yeah.
So I never actually sort of viewed them as sort of something where I would analyse and go, well, that means something. So, but there are a few where you actually get a rare insight into someone's psyche. And so, so for instance, I mean, obviously I'm going to pick Living on an Island, because, that is obviously not been written to a brief or anything. It was just obviously a snapshot of a moment in life, and essentially a bit of a portrait to what he felt like and what was going on in that time.
I know, have just won. Now, put me right. The British.
Well, I've had a bit of a successful year in racing. I raced karts when I was younger, and obviously grew up with a love of cars. I think my first word in the world was car, and that was obviously very much instilled by my father and you guys, with regards to the Range Rovers and everything we always used to have. And so I grew up with this love of cars, and obviously wanting to go fast, and never had the opportunity to get into cars until 6 years ago. And my career has gone quite well since then. And so I was in a Bentley Continental GT3 in British GT, which is the most competitive domestic championship in the world. And I won the lesser class GT4 in 2013, and in my first year, and I just won the overall class. So this year, I became British GT3 champion. I delivered Bentley their first ever domestic GT championship. I became British GT Pro-Am champion, and I've just won the Sunoco 240 Challenge, which gives me a drive in the support race of the Daytona 24 Hours in America. So that'll be at the end of January. So Yeah, it's been quite a good year.
Well done.
Really.
Your dad would be so proud of that, wouldn't he?
Yeah,
he would love to have done it himself.
He chose the wrong year to leave us, didn't he?
Just,
unfortunately, but bless him. But there was a few moments this year where I had a real moment, because I saw him just before the Turkey incident. He came and he said he didn't want to let me down. He was feeling really bad. He'd had the Isle of Wight and he wasn't feeling well. Obviously, he had a bit of an angina attack after the Isle of Wight. And the next day, I didn't know about this because I was already at Silverstone, with the race team. And he came up the next day and, you wouldn't have known that anything was wrong, to be fair. He didn't let on. I had an awful race in the rain, but, he was there. And I remember him looking through the mesh and, giving me the thumbs up in the pouring rain. And I just thought it was really nice to have him there. And it was really great. And he was very proud of the racing. And, and so that was a real moment for me. And then this year we returned and, I probably drove the best I ever drove, and we won the race by over a minute and won the RAC trophy, which is a big trophy which hasn't been awarded since 1932 as well. And literally the last 10 laps, I had just tears in my eyes because, I just remembered him being there and looking through the fence and you jump out the car and Seb, my teammate, and both his parents are sort of hugging him and I got out and sort of and I just had a massive moment. But luckily I have the most amazing wife and she's supported me through everything and she's been an absolute legend this year. And so I sort of felt that he was with us, and there was a real poignant moment because I sort of climbed up on the gantry as you do as your car comes across the line, and I just pointed at the sky and that photo went everywhere. And so his memory was very much sort of predicated through everyone sort of realising what I was doing.
Yeah.
So
we're
there you
all
are.
so proud of you, Rick. It's just fantastic. And your band is playing a lot as well, I believe.
Yeah, but as we spoke about before, we're in corporate world and it's good, but the whole aim with that is to be the best at what we do, and I've got some very, very talented players. We've got Joe here with me as well for this weekend, and Joe has just he's just been playing with ELO and with various other people as well. He's a terribly talented chap, and it's nice to have him here as well as a little bit of moral as well, and because we spend so much time together on the road, and he's like a surrogate brother, and so yeah, we're here, and
how are you
awesome.
finding it walking around? I mean, obviously so many of the Quo family, and it is such a family, all of us as well as the fans. How are you finding it when they see you?
It's difficult to put into words because I've always technically sort of been on the other side, I guess, and you've always been backstage, or you sort of duck into the Quo world and without really engaging with the fans. And this year, obviously, it's been very difficult to compartmentalise and get over everything. But the messages I've had from everyone, from absolutely random people, have been absolutely lovely, and it's been so overwhelming. And for me, thinking that technically, it's an absolute honour that I'm here and that people actually want me here it's just mind blowing. And yesterday we wandered out, and they're being so respectful and so lovely, and the comments that are being made, and people want to have a hug, and it's actually been really difficult because it just brings everything out in you. You're like, and what's interesting as well is that you realise how much John, Alan, and my father, have made such a difference in so many people's lives, and you only really realise the impact you've had for these people. It's not just about following a band. It was a lifestyle, and it was something that really defined a lot of their life, and hopefully something they took a lot of strength from as well, and derived happiness from. That's amazing. And for people to come and say that to me makes me immensely proud, and John, you should be immensely proud. I mean, you look at how people react. It is just a wonderful, wonderful thing, and
sure.
And I'm very, very honoured to be part of it.
Because it's all changed, you see, Rick, now, because in our day when we was here with your dad and Francis and Alan and that, and it was really funny because if you were an entertainer musician, actor, whatever you were, you weren't allowed to stay on the camp. You had to get a B&B up the road. No one was trusted. We could never work that one out. Now we're allowed to stay on the camp and still cause problems.
They think you're safe now.
You are full of minehead facts, John. We need some more minehead facts. Come on.
Okay, yeah.
What else do we know about
We know
Minehead,
that this
then?
is where as the Spectres arrived at Minehead Station, railway station.
Yeah.
They came
Really?
on the train when they came for their
So is
summer
this
season.
where it started?
This is
Yeah.
why it's here.
Yeah.
Didn't no one tell you
Really?
that?
But I didn't know it was.
This is where they met your dad.
Minehead.
This is where they met your dad.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because
why
he
we're
was
here.
with the highlights in the theatre. He had the posh gig. We were in the Rock and Roll Ballroom as the Spectres.
Right.
And Rick kept coming over to listen to us. Well, I mean, we were called the Spectres. There was keyboards, Jesse Walls, Gallon Lancaster, Francis and me. And we did cover songs, because we hadn't written any songs at all by then. And Rick kept coming over. And Pat Barlow was our manager at the time. And he said, look, this guy called Rick Parfitt's got a great voice. I think you should get him in the band. And we asked Rick, and he said yes, okay, and he joined the band. Then we became the Status Quo. If we hadn't played here in the '60s, we wouldn't have met Rick.
Wow.
So none of it would have happened.
That's
without
why the
Minehead.
Quo Convention's here, you see, because this is where it all started.
Well, that's going to make it even more emotive.
Shouldn't have told you
isn't
that
it?
before the gig, should we?
Wow, that's crazy.
And just think, they could have employed the highlights as well and had one each of the twins either side of Status Quo.
boy.
In their frilly dresses.
That's a musical direction I'd have liked to have witnessed, quite frankly.
Rick, thank you so much for your time.
Oh, it's been brilliant. Thank
And
you.
we look forward to the gig.
Let's rock.
How can I feel what I'm trying to feel? How can I move when I'm healed to heal? You keep on shouting about the doubt in my eye, but I can't answer 'cause yes, I can't live without the rain. Hey! Yes, I can't live without the rain. Hey! Rain, rain. Take it away, boys. Come on. Now I can't live without the rain that's falling on my head. Rain that's falling on my head. Rain that's falling. Rain that's falling. Rain that's falling on my head. I started thinking back to you know when. I'd like to send a line, but then again, how can I write you when there ain't no light? I really tried to
And that was Rain performed live with the vocals done by Rick Parfitt Jr. of his dad's great song Rain. A very emotional moment for all of us, and I don't think there was a dry eye in the house. I think even on stage it was quite hard to hold it together.
And that's about it for part 1 of our Rockers Rollin convention special.
Part 2 will be at 6 p.m. tomorrow night, when we'll talk to stage manager Russ Chad, Bob Young and Mickey Moody, author Andy Flemmings, and hear more from the fans.
Plus we'll have another live song from the Sunday night finale when Alan Lancaster joined us on stage, and we'll have to chat to him as well.
That's all tomorrow night from 6 till 7 on BBC Radio Oxford.
Rockers Rollin with John and Gilly Coughlin. Memories of a lifetime in music.
On BBC Radio Oxford.
Rockers Rollin'.